Hey everybody, Unstable Gamer here, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another Disney Mirrorverse video. Today we're going to be talking about the best Guardians, specifically the top 3 Guardians in each role. Tank, support, so on and so forth, and we're going to take a look at that right now. But first, before we do, if you're just now finding this channel and you want to stay up to date with this and other games, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, and welcome back. So this game has been out, soft launch now for a week, officially global launch just under a week. And one of the biggest questions I think I see out there is, where should I be putting my resources? Who should I be building? Because when you take a look at games like this, Hero Collectors, it's all about where you put your resources, where you're going to be most effective so you can get as far in the game as possible. So what I really want to take a look at right now are the top 3 Guardians in each role, so that it gives you an idea, at least from my perspective, where I feel resources are best served. Now, one thing to think about when you're taking a look at tier lists, my list here, things like that, there's a certain skill that comes into play as well. So, for instance, Mr. Incredible, I may think he is the best all-around tank, and I play him well, but maybe somebody else doesn't play him so well, but they play Oogie Boogie fantastically, and they can get further with Oogie Boogie than they can with Mr. Incredible. Again, that comes down to skill and how well you know each one of these Guardians. So there is some flexibility there, so just keep that in mind. All right, so first, we're going to try and do this kind of high level, give a really good understanding of each of the Guardians, and then in a later video, hopefully later this week, maybe next week, I'll have a more detailed video coming out because I have a resource that I'm putting together for everybody for team lists and things like that I want to share that I've been working on for a little while, so hopefully that'll be ready. But until then, I wanted to get this out, so let's take a look at tanks. The top 3 tanks, in my opinion, is going to be Mr. Incredible, Baymax, and Maui. The reason for that, one of the things I look at is, where are they useful in other areas of the game? Can I play them in multiple game modes? Mr. Incredible, he can be used in the leader tower, Baymax in the high-tech tower, Maui in the seafaring tower. You get a good tank for each one of those towers, then really you just got to fill in some of those other spaces and needs that you need to fill out your team. Mr. Incredible does a fantastic job. One of the things I like about him the most is he cannot be knocked back except for special abilities, but he's immune to knockback. So if you can reduce that delay from when you get knocked down to getting back up and getting back in the fight, then that's going to reduce the amount of damage that you take as well. Now, he can be rooted, he can be stunned. However, he does a fantastic job there. He also, through talents, he can give himself armor as well. So he just, great all-around tank. Survivability is great. That immune to knockback, I think, is absolutely fantastic as well. Baymax, we take a look at him. He is fantastic. He gives armor to his entire team. They have to be close to him for that to happen, though. He also can increase his defense so that as enemies are attacking him, he's a tank, and everybody's attacking him. You can increase his armor and his defense to increase his survivability as well. Again, he works well in the high-tech tower. So I like him a lot. I like his stun as well. Whenever you can reduce the movement of your enemy or the amount of times that they can attack, causing you less damage and you causing more damage, then that's always a good thing. It swings the battle in your favor, right? Maui, very similar. However, you don't need to be so close to him in order to get that armor buff. Now, for him, he can keep armor up on himself and his entire team. You got to take a look at talents and how that comes into play as well. However, a lot of it's based on defense buffs and things like that. But he can keep armor up on his whole team, which is going to increase the survivability of your entire team. And that's really what the tanks are trying to accomplish in this game, I feel, is increase their survivability. Now, some of them may take a little harder hits than others, but it's all about increasing the survivability, distracting the enemies where they can. There's not really any taunt. There's a lure that works all right. But as far as tanks, those are the top 3. They do a fantastic job, and you can use them in the different towers as well. If we take a look next, we're going to go to ranged. If we take a look at ranged here, ranged has historically had some challenges. All right, so Zerg by far is the best range in the game. He does a massive amount of damage. If I could tell the AI to stick him in a corner and not move and just do his heavy, I could do that. I think that would be awesome. Then that would free me to go ahead and play one of the other Guardians. But he does a massive amount of damage. He can do a root once you unlock his signature ability, so that's going to keep the enemy at a distance. When you're in rapid fire mode, you can dodge, so that delay from rapid fire mode to dodging you can eliminate by just dodging and keeping in rapid fire mode engaged. However, when you move, you are going to lose your focus buff. So you have increased mobility, you just lose a little bit of damage when you have to move. Most of the time you don't have to move, but sometimes you are going to have to. Even with that 25% defense buff that he gets, he still can get hit pretty hard. But he's great, dishes out a ton of damage. Next is going to be Tron. Tron is fantastic. He does a great job. He does some debuffing. He also ricochets his disc. There's opportunity to increase the amount of ricochets that you do. If you don't get a crit off that first hit, it increases the chance to get a crit off the second hit. You can get it all the way up to 4 with some talent use there as well. He's got an entire board AoE special ability that comes into play that you can actually, through a talent, allow for the opportunity for that special ability to stun. So you got some debuffing there. You've got some focus buffing. You've got a stun ability as well. So he's a lot of fun to play around with. So definitely check him out if you haven't already. And then next, the third one for me is going to be Gaston. Gaston, where he really shines, is the increased damage he does when someone has a wound. He can cause wounds, increases the chance of him causing wounds, and by doing that, increases his damage ability as well. So he does awesome. So you're not going to go wrong building him up either. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. The next is going to be support. So when it comes to the support Guardians, the top 3 are going to be Mickey Mouse, Jack Skellington, and Scrooge McDuck. Mickey Mouse just has so many things to his kit. If you get his charges maxed out to 5, you've got a stun there, you've got a nice heal, you got the Stellar Boon buff. If that goes off on your team, then it's going to reduce the cooldown of special abilities, which is absolutely fantastic. He's got this Magic Mirror buff that your allies taking damage reflects that damage back to the enemy. So there's just a lot of cool things about his kit. You cannot go wrong with him. Jack Skellington has some cool stuff with some defense debuffing, some purging. I also, one of the things I like about him is that he's got this 0 attack buff that he applies to enemies. It's like a trick buff, right? That he applies to the enemies on the board, which kicks in because then he can purge that and then he can cause some additional damage. Also, if you pair him up with like Scrooge, when an enemy gets an attack buff, Scrooge gives all of your allies an attack buff. So there's some nice synergies there to play around with. He does some nice heals. He's a great, the art on him is absolutely fantastic. I love it. And he's a great tune as well. Scrooge McDuck, with him, he's got a pretty good heal. He's got a decent heal. What really kind of seals it for me with him is just his focus buff. You get his coins all the way up to 10, then you hit your special, and then you're going to do a pretty decent heal. You're going to give everybody a focus buff, and you're going to increase the damage for everybody, and that works really well. He works really well paired up with ranged characters like Zurg. Also kind of that high-tech tower, right? So you got him for high-tech tower, you have Jack, you have Mickey for leader tower. So all of these Guardians can be used, again, in multiple game modes and will help out really well. So those are the top 3 there. If we take a look at Melee, in my opinion, is a little bit tougher, and I don't have as much built into Melee because I didn't have as much focus on that. A lot of my focus for Melee went into Ariel. So first and foremost, Ariel, I think, is one of the best Melee in the game. She purges, she has a self-heal, she's got an AoE knockback. When she's next to an ally and she does her self-heal, she can heal the ally as well. No, sorry, not heal them, but the attack buff that she gets when she's next to allies from her special, she can go ahead and give an attack buff to her adjacent allies there as well. So that's pretty cool. She can share her buffs. She can self-heal. She does purges. She's got an AoE knockback. She does a great job, and she dishes out quite a bit of damage. When it comes to the other Melee, now, I haven't been able to put as much into the other Melee, but the 2 that come to mind that I really want to focus on is Woody. I think Woody is great. I think his warrant is pretty cool. His lasso can interrupt specials. He can do some nice damage. He's got a lot of flexibility with him, where he's got his basic is a melee and it's short range melee, where his heavy attack is a ranged attack. So you have some flexibility in how you play him. So you can play him in both aspects, which is pretty cool. And then the other one's going to be Snow White. I really need to focus on her. I think she is going to be really, really good. She's got a lure, which makes me think when it comes to the Royalty Tower, there's no tank in the Royalty Tower, but she has lure, so it makes me think that she is just a tanky DPS. So I need to play around with her. So a lot of kind of, when it comes to Melee, I take into account a lot of feedback that I've heard from the players and other people who have who I've talked to about the melee. But Ariel #1 is fantastic. Again, I like Woody and Snow White for the top 3 there. Now, a couple other ones as far as melee goes that are pretty good as well. Scar, Minnie, and Mulan. Minnie, I think, with her buff, she's going to come into play a little bit later on down the road. She does some nice damage as long as she stays focused on one enemy. Mulan, I like her. She's a tanky melee. She does some AoE damage, and she has an opportunity to buff up her defense, which is good. And then Scar has always been pretty decent. So I just gave you 6 Guardians there to kind of take a look at when it comes to melee. I think they're all pretty decent. Ariel, by far, is the best. She's one that you can pick really early on. So I think that's the one where a lot of people are going to gravitate towards. You can use her in the Seafaring Tower. She's also in the Royalty Tower as well. So with everybody that I just mentioned, you have multiple teams that you can create. You've got pretty much full teams for all the towers except for Seafaring. Seafaring, when you take a look at that tower, typically, as far as a support, you're going to have Jack Sparrow or Frank Wolf. A lot of people gravitate towards Frank Wolf. I'm not a fan of either, really. But if you have to go one way or another for that Seafaring Tower, Frank Wolf is probably a good bet there. But that's my opinion. Those are the top 12 Guardians in the game, from my perspective. 3 of each role. Your tanks, your support, your melee, and your ranged. Very interested in your thoughts. What do you think about this list? What do you think about the thoughts that I've shared about these Guardians? Who are your favorite Guardians in each one of these roles? Because I'm very interested to hear what all of you have to say as well. With this game just globally launching and getting into so many people's hands, there's so many different opinions. I love hearing other people's opinions and how they play these Guardians. It's just a lot of fun. All right, there you go, everybody. That's what I had for you. I tried to keep it short. As always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.